There's the 4 halves of the fuselage for the 2 mini talons prepared. I put in the P-dot tube, just a little hot glue right there to keep those the tubes kind of affixed out of the way, and hot glued the sensor there. There's totally too much wire on this. This just needs to come right up here where it's going to plug into the GPS module. There's a whole lot of extra wire there. This ESC and motor's just sitting in here. When I get ready to glue the 2 halves together, I'll go ahead and put glue on this motor mount first. Leave this side completely no Gorilla Glue on it. Spritz it with water and let this Gorilla Glue actually put on the motor mount back here, sort of start setting up. The rest of it's not glue, remember, while I put the Gorilla Glue on the other side, and then I'll start at the motor mount part back here with now Gorilla Glue on both sides, closing that up and making sure that angle stays good. So there's the 2 mini talon fuselages. Second one up there, did the same thing to it. Just got it sitting there ready to, I still have to sand it. This one I still have to actually unclamp, where I have Gorilla Glued the plywood equipment tray, equipment compartment, whatever you want to call it. It's actually reinforcement for the wings and the fuselage as much as anything. Got all that. Unclamp that in the next short because it's pretty much set at this point. Sand up the 4 surfaces here, and then throw some Gorilla Glue on it and wrap it up in blue tape. And then it's on to the wings, V-tails, servos. It's all really pretty simple stuff there. Well, I was just bragging on my 3D printer how well it was printing, and went to print something else. And this is how it printed. It's a little box. You can sort of see part of the little box in here. You can see parts of an edge of a top piece here. It's a pretty substantial little piece there. There's another part of that box there. And then the rest of it's just spaghetti. And this happened actually more from the way it was put up on Thingiverse than my printer having a problem. I did get another Demerit Badge. And these are my Demerit badges. I just got the upper left again. That's for 3D printer spaghetti right there. So that's spaghetti from trying to print that. The other ones there are a cut finger. What's the center one? Oh, taking the smoke out of electronic components. Measure once, cut twice. I frequently do that one. And breaking a drill bit. Those are all Adam Savage's Demerit badges. Then he came out with a new set. I've got them down here, but I haven't mounted them yet. This one's for gluing your fingers together. This one's for a lost screw on the floor. This one's for hitting your thumb. This one's for touching wet paint. And this one is for assembling something incorrectly by mistake. So I've earned all 10 of these Demerit badges. And like I say, I earned the 3D printer spaghetti Demerit badge again for this print. Now this was what I was trying to print. It's a little housing case, whatever, for a GPS. There's the bottom. Shouldn't brag on the 3D printer again, it'll mess up again. And this is the top piece here. Now you can see the top piece has these little places here that are deeper than the rest of the top piece, and that's because there's two connectors on this GPS and it needs to go in and out each, the top and the bottom. So when the case goes together, that little tab comes down inside here and keeps your cables good, whatever. Anyway, when I corrected the print, it printed well. And there's the M9N5883 GPS, and there it is in its little case. The top part of the case, I had to do a little filing of this inner area, size of it, the four corners, and a little filing on each of the four sides so that it actually fit. I've had to do that almost every time. This is the third time I've printed one of these for my GPS modules. One of them's currently on the Sky Hunter, I think. I think that's where I put that other 5883. And then I have another one right here, printed, everything already in the case. These are the two GPS modules I'm going to use on the mini Talons. So they're ready. Now, let me show you on the internet where I got this print file and what's actually wrong with the print file. Because I think everybody's going to get this spaghetti when they try to print this one if they print it as it comes off of Thingiverse.
And here's where that print file comes from. This is the M9N5883 page on the website. And if you come down here, here's your STL and step. This right here, M9N shell, also fits the non-CAN version of this GPS. So if you download this file and then you take it into your 3D printer slicing program, which for me is Cura. Takes a little bit for Cura to get up and running. You know how that is. If you come in here and look, and I'm going to use the print file from a machine across the room because that's where I consolidate all my 3D files. You can see right here are those bottom shell and the top shell. And if you bring them into Cura, you can see right here, I'll try to zoom in on this, what the problem is. There's that little tab that sticks down to go in, and there's another one on this end. If I move this out of the way, you can see it. Right there's the little tab that sticks down. So the rest of this whole print is up in the air. Same thing for this one. This one, it's a little, it is on the build surface all the way around, but it's got all this up in the air. And what that is this is, you don't want to print this with support because there'll be all sorts of support inside this that's hard to get out and clean up afterward. It's a pain in the posterior, but it's pretty understandable. See, this one's up in the air. because of these tabs sticking down. So it's pretty understandable that this turned into spaghetti. There's nothing to support this big long run here up in the air when it tries to print it. So, and the same thing, once this gets up fairly high, then this whole top will sag. So there's a real easy fix for this. And what I did to fix it, I just take the parts and rotate them. Grab here. Oops. Grab right here, bring it inside, and rotate it 100. Oops. Not 190. Let's make that 180 from where it was. There we go. So now that's been dropped on the build surface. The part that was up in the air is going to print flat on the build surface, and the rest of everything else will build up with no problems. Same thing with this part. Just grab it. Oops. And rotate it 180. Oops. I rotated it 360, didn't I? Let's try 180 again. There we go. There's 180. Now if we look at that part, you can see the center sections so the GPS antenna can stick out of it. That's not printed. But all the rest of this is going to be printed flat on the build surface and printed vertically. And that's not going to be a problem for this little tab this time. So I just did that fix to this, which was simply flipping them over. And they printed perfectly the first time. And I just don't see how they're going to print with this, keeping the rest of this area off the build surface. I just don't see how they're going to print properly. So from now on, I will flip these over before I start them printing. If the person who put this file out just flipped them over, everybody would be printing this little GPS case with no problems. That's just my suggestion, my fix. It isn't rocket science. So I was bragging on my 3D printer, how well it was printing. Then it just turned around and printed spaghetti for me. That's what happens when you brag on things.
That's one glued together. I only have one of these clamps, so I can't do them both at exactly the same moment. Got a little glue oozing out right there I'll have to clean up later, but that's about the worst of it. These seams did pretty good. Get the front fairly straight on this one. And that's just a clamp. I had glued the equipment tray into this side, and when I put the two halves together, I glued inside this area. So I've just got a wood block on that and a clamp and a piece of plywood on the outside so I don't mar the foam. So that'll just need to sit there for a half hour. And take the clamp off to use on the other fuselage, and we'll glue up the other fuselage. There's the second fuselage, Gorilla glued together. I'll let it sit for about an hour, and then I'll take this clamp off of it, and then they'll both sit here overnight before I take the blue painter's tape off of them. It's been an hour or so, so I took the clamp off the center section, and there's the two fuselages. They'll sit overnight, and I guess they can sort of be set aside for the time being, and we'll move on to other things. One side note, for my two RunCam split cameras from Banggood for this, they notified me yesterday they didn't think they could ship them.
So I requested a refund. We'll see if that refund comes in. That's all I really have to say on that. I guess I'm going to be forced to move to a more expensive camera setup again. So basically, we can set these two items aside. I'm going to move on to putting the servos and the carbon fiber rods into the V-tails for both of the mini talons. So I've got me 4 servos, 4 carbon fiber rods, 2 right V-tails, 2 left V-tails. This is all pretty straightforward. There's no magic here whatsoever. Although I was a little disappointed in one way. I was going to put my linkages on top instead of on the bottom like I did the first mini talon. But I see here the surfaces seem to be made for putting it on the bottom. Same side as the carbon fiber rod. Just the way they're shaped. They've got a curved undersurface and flat upper surface. And on the place where you put them on the airplane, there's your curved lower surface and flat upper surface. So this plans to go on that way, and that puts the linkages on the bottom. I built the other one with the linkages on the bottom, so it's not a great loss, but I got them out of the box thinking that I would put the connecting rods and control horns on the top. And I'm sure I could through that same slot that's there. There's nothing would stop me from doing that. But it looks to me like the way they've done this, they intend it to be otherwise. So I'm going to build it like I did the other one with the servo horns and control linkage underneath. Again, I'm using these control horns. I bought a pack of 20 of them or so. Might have been 40 of them. I don't remember. 2 packs of 20, whatever. These control horns go all the way through and then have the cap on the other side. And this is ratcheted in this area. I just like using these, so I've got 4 of those set aside here to go on these V-tails. And I also make up custom linkages with ball joints and ball joints. And cut my own rods to length, etc., etc. I don't use anything that comes out of these kits. There's the 2 fuselages with the blue painter's tape off of it. I also glued on with hot glue the skids on the bottom in the front and back. They do look pretty good, if I say so myself. They're pretty much complete except for putting in the electronics and putting the wings and tails on. Not much more to do to the fuselage. The front deck, I've been set back on my pan and tilt again, but I'll have the front decks. I'm going to deck them in the plywood that comes with them this time, I believe. Notice I wrote airspeed tubing under this area right in here. I cut that the last time, cutting out a hole for the servos, and cut both the airspeed tubes going to the pilot tube in the front. So that's all for the fuselages for a while. Again, I'm currently working on V-tails. There's the 4 V-tails ready to be glued into the 2 fuselages. I put in the carbon fiber rod, servos, and linkages, and of course the control horns. On 4, that was pretty straightforward and easy. Boy, you're not going to believe the throw on these details compared to my first one when I show them to you. These are definitely different servos. And there's one pair of V-tails just dry fitted to one of the fuselages with the servo wires pulled through. No problem. They fit great, of course. I don't know when I will glue those on. I think I may work inside the fuselage with the flight controller and stuff without those on before I actually glue them. But they're entirely ready to glue now. Next up, we've got 4 wing halves to prepare. Aileron servos, and one wing gets the video transmitter, one wing gets the RC receiver. Pretty common stuff here. I did my video transmitters the same way as I did the last time. I just put them on 4 standoffs, made me 4 little holes in the wing, and they're going to be blowing in the breeze, so to speak. The air is going to go underneath, get to that heat sink underneath, and then it'll also be blowing on the heat sink on top. The wires are going to come out the front here, go straight into the channel to go back to the flight controller, and on the other side, the antenna will come out and be mounted right in here on both of them. I don't know if that's the way people do it. Most people do it, whatever. That's the way I've been doing it, so I get airflow all around those. Those are 2,000 milliwatt video transmitters, so they are going to get hot. And I just want as much cooling for them as I can possibly get. I'm going to make up a cable for the video transmitters now. Like I say, I've glued them in. The servos you see there are just dry fitted. I'm going to use this twisted pair, shielded twisted pair. It's 4 conductor. That's exactly how many conductors I need for the video transmitter. I'm not going to fix the drain wire to ground or the foil inside of it to ground. I'm just going to use it as twisted pair. It's, like I say, foil wrapped. Noise won't be induced into it as easily as just straight wire, but the reason I'm using it is it's 4 conductor and it's just a small diameter, so that when I'm running the wire through the cable run there, it won't be very big to get in the way. And it's all in one bundle rather than separate wires, whatever. So that's the reason I'm going to use that. I've got the connectors off the video transmitter prepped for the 4 wires I'm going to use out of these, and I've got a 4 conductor DuPont pigtail that I'm going to use on the other end. That should be fairly simple wiring. Well, it isn't pretty, but it is workable. There's the connector for the video transmitter, and it runs out to a 4-position, 4-conductor DuPont connector for the flight controller. And I am trying to make my cables a little better this time. So over there on that end, I do have enough to get inside and connect to the flight controller. All right, let's do the other one. Just a side note, while I was getting ready to install this cable for the video transmitter, wring your cables out as soon as you make them while your soldering iron's still hot and stuff. Somehow I got 2 of the signal wires crossed up in this. I had my smart audio right here on the first pin and my video out here where the smart audio should be. The way this works on the 743 wing is video transmitter signal, power, ground, and then this actually jumps across to UART 8 receive pin with this yellow wire. Let me show you on the schematic for the board.
And as you can see right here, here's where I'm connecting it to the 743 version 2 VTX out of the video transmitter, the camera data, 9 volts, ground, and I misspoke on the 765 wing. This is actually UART 8 here. On this one, it's UART 3. So I'll be putting that 4th pin, smart audio pin, on the transmit pin of UART 3 so that it can transmit smart audio data to the video transmitter to tell it to change powers, etc., etc. It's not a receive pin. I think I also misspoke and said it was a receive pin. So these are the 4 pins. Video out of the camera, basically from the VTX. 9 volt supply, ground, and then smart audio here. See if I can stick a picture of my connector up here. And I'll show you those 4 pins again. So there it is with my connector I'm using overlaid on the picture. So the white wire is VTX out of the VTX signal out of the video transmitter. 9 volts is the red wire, ground is the black wire, and yellow is connected to TX3 on UART 3 right next to that. So that's where the 4 connectors go across. And sorry about getting this TX3 right here. I was thinking the 765 wing, and on the 765 wing we got video out of the video transmitter, 9 volts, ground, and TX8 here. That would be data coming out of the flight controller going into the video transmitter for smart audio. In the case of the H743 V2 wing, it's TX3. I wonder if that has a... Yeah, let's look at the Ardu pilot mapping real quick and see. TX3 is actually serial 4 on the telemetry 2, serial 4 on the Ardu. So you don't talk about UART 3, you go into serial 4, UART 4 on Ardu pilot, whereas you would go and configure UART 3 on iNav. Sorry about that. I hope that's a little more clear what I'm doing.
There's one wing done. I put the cable in for the video transmitter and epoxied it into this channel. I used some old ready-made RC epoxy and it was not clear. It was amber, I think they call it. Anyway, such be life. I wished it had been clear. Put on the servo horn, put on the linkages here from the servo, cut the ailerons free. The channel up here with the servo wire in it's all glued up, and I have 2 wires sticking out of the end of the wing, one for video transmitter, one for aileron. That's the end of that wing. It's ready to be installed. Got the second one right here. I'll finish this up today. And then all I'll have left is doing the RC receivers in two left wing sections. And I'll be doing that this coming week. I'm going to go ahead and post this video for this week's update. This coming Wednesday, I have my second cataract surgery. My right eye will be fixed. I think it's going to be real soon after that I fly. I've been really anxious to fly. Every time I go outdoors in bright sunlight, I realize I can't do it, but I keep wanting to. So after they do my second eye, I can put on sunglasses easily and start working on that. I really think 2 weeks after the surgery, I'll be pretty much 100%. But I also think I probably won't make it that long before I fly. I just really want to get out there and do that. So that's coming up. I'll post this video. I'll do this second wing today. It's pretty simple, doesn't take long. And then this coming week, I'll work on the left wing section with the RC receivers in it, and that'll finish up these two mini talons. Have a good one. Thanks for everything.